Buildings, buildings, buildings. We have 191 million buildings in the EU, homes, offices, factory, technology park, and infrastructure. The number one use of energy is buildings. They are the number one emitter of CO2, buildings. Let me say parenthetically, the number two cause of climate change is not transport. That's number three. Anybody know what the number two cause of climate change is? Anybody? It's beef production and consumption. And the reason I mention that is we still have yet to have one government leader in 192 countries, including the heads of state I advise, who have made one single sentence statement on the number two cause of climate change, which is recognized by the UN Climate Panel, the FAO, etc. How serious are we? We can't even have a discussion about that. Number one cause of climate change, buildings. The plan in the European Union is to convert every single one of those buildings, if possible, to a mini power plant that can collect the distributed energy on site. Sun off the roof, on the walls, vertical wind up the sides of the building, geothermal heat pumps under the ground, putting the garbage back into energy through decomposition. In the rural areas, using the agricultural and forestry waste for energy. On the coastal areas, ocean tides and waves coming in, small hydro where we can. The conversion of the building stock of Europe leads to a construction boom. The elephant in the room is construction. When construction's going well, economy thrives. When construction stops, the economy stops. All the great communication energy convergence in history have changed dwelling patterns. Forager hunters, nomadic dwelling patterns. First hydraulic civilizations, the beginning of urban life. The great first coal-based industrial revolution gave us vertical cities, condensed, high-rises like London and New York. Second industrial revolution gave us suburban sprawl. Third industrial revolutions, our buildings are dual-purpose habitats and power plants. Millions and millions and millions of power plants. The new buildings are actually positive power. The first ones are up in Europe. They're leading, just as they did with the introduction of the internal combustion engine. Acciona in Spain has a zero-emission building up for a number of years now. In Aragon, Spain, General Motors has a rooftop. I asked them to do this a number of years ago on their Opel factory. They teamed up with Veolia. In 60 days, they put a 78 million euro photovoltaic power plant on the roof. It produces 10 megawatts, enough electricity to power 4,700 homes with one roof. Payback is 8 years, and there's no scale-up even yet. Olivier Bouygues sat me down in Paris 3 years ago. They're the biggest construction company. He showed me blueprints. The building is now, I was just a block away last week in Paris. The building's almost completed. The whole office complex is positive power. It collects enough energy on site just for the sun. It actually produces more power than its total needs and can send back to the grid. And we've got many more moving. Bosch in Germany, Speer in Germany, CH2M Hill here in the U.S. Others are starting to move aggressively. This is where we jumpstart the economy. That's thousands of SMEs and millions of jobs over 40 years to convert the actual infrastructure of civilization. Pillar 3. Pillar 3 is storage. Problem is the sun isn't always shining here in Alberta. Sometimes the wind is blowing at night and you need the electricity during the day. Water tables can be down from climate change drought, so your hydro can be in jeopardy. We need storage. So in 2003, when Romano Prodi was president of the European Commission, I sat down with him and I said, Romano, we got a problem. If we wake up in 2020 and a third of our electricity is renewable, and here's the scenario. The sun goes under the clouds for 2 weeks in the summer. Bad luck, the wind stops blowing all over Europe. And really bad luck, the water tables are down because of climate change drought. And I said, Romano, what do we do? He's a great, mature politician, thoughtful. And he simply turned off his glasses and he said, that's interesting. Most politicians mean take a hike. For him, it meant 60 days later he introduced a 2 billion euro hydrogen research and development plan for hydrogen. And now Manuel Barroso's laid out an 8 billion euro joint technology initiative for hydrogen storage. I asked Chancellor Merkel several years ago to pony in, and her country's ponied up a 500 million. I'm in favor of all storage. If you have water pumping, use it. If you have flywheels, use it. If you have batteries, use it. If you have capacitors, use it. All of them. I like hydrogen because it's universal and transformable and modular, and it's like digital. It's completely agile. It's the basic element of the universe. It's the stuff of the stars. Our astronauts, my God, have been powering these spaceships for 30 years around the Earth with hydrogen fuel cell technology, and we keep saying this is 50 years away. And, of course, you've led in this area because you have companies like Hydrogenics here. My old friend Darrell Wilson, who was a student of mine at Wharton A&P, heads up Hydrogenics here in Canada. You have a lot of electrolyzing operations. So the sun hits your factory roof. You generate electricity. If you have surplus you don't need, you put the electricity in the water. The hydrogen comes out into a tank. When the sun's not shining, convert it back to electricity. And yes, there's a thermodynamic loss. Big deal. It's infinitesimally small compared to the conversion loss of getting coal, oil, gas, tar sands to you at every step of the markup chain. Completely different because this is end users producing the energy right there. Pillar 1, renewable energy. Pillar 2, we convert our buildings to power plants to collect it. Pillar 3, we put in hydrogen and other storage, because once you get over 15 to 20% of your energy on that grid that's renewable, you better have a way to store it. In California, we're losing 3 out of 4 kilowatts of wind because we haven't stored it. Pillar 4 is the most interesting pillar. That's where the communication revolution merges with the distributed energies to create a central nervous system for a new infrastructure, for a new economy. We take off-the-shelf internet technology. We're taking the power grid of Europe. It's going to cost us $1 trillion over the next 9 years. $1 trillion. The U.S. is putting in $4 billion. You get the difference here? $1 trillion public-private commitment to convert the entire power and transmission lines of Europe to an intergrid that acts exactly like the internet. So, for example, all the appliances will be connected with sensors and software across Europe. We'll know what every washing machine is doing. So if there's peak demand and not enough supply in the system, the actual grid can say to 200,000 washing machines, cut off that extra rinse. If you bought the program, you get a credit or a check. You're now an entrepreneur. It's totally voluntary. Dynamic pricing will let every office, home, factory, and building know the exact price of electricity moment to moment. Your software can tell you when to get off the grid, when to get on the grid, when to sell back to the grid, when to move down your energy, all programmed by the way you would like it, because everyone now is a player. Imagine millions and millions and millions of buildings as power plants sharing that energy across continental landmasses. Pillar 5 is electric plug-in transport. The big car companies have come out this year. Daimler, GM, they're in our group. Plug-in electric vehicles. You'll be able to plug up and power up wherever your buildings are with green electricity. And then the power and utility companies will have to put in electric charging units across countries. That's starting this year here in Canada and elsewhere. So you can plug in your vehicle wherever you are, sell back to the grid if the price is right on your software, or get electricity from the grid. Altogether, these 5 pillars make up an emergent new central nervous system for a completely new economic model for civilization. This is power to the people. This is distributed capitalism. This is the democratization of energy.